In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
And it's called Alternasweets. Head on over to alternasweets.com and you can get your hands on this keto ketchup. Alternasweets.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live. And we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and you'll see how the fun begins over on Instagram. So if you're not following me there, go to Instagram. Follow me there at Living Low Carb Man. That's LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage in the content live, just like all these awesome people are doing right now. If you missed the live, it's all good. You can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours over on Instagram. After 24 hours, it does disappear. So we put all the past episodes over on YouTube. And if you missed any of the Jimmy Rants past episodes, we have over 200 episodes for you to enjoy now. So go check it out over on YouTube. Put in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, we have a Jimmy Rants podcast, which has the best of the best moments of this here show in podcast form. Put a little cool groove music underneath it. Get your Jimmy Jam on. And you can listen to that on Apple Podcast or Stitcher. JimmyRants.com is the link how you can access this show. Today's Jimmy Rants was inspired by a comment that I got on Twitter last night. And you know how Twitter gets, really all social media, but Twitter especially. It seems like the judgy people love to hang out on Twitter. And this gentleman was commenting on someone else's post and tagged me and said, somebody in the keto community needs to ask Jimmy Moore why he thinks that he can eat gobs and gobs of fat in his diet and that it's only about the hormonal effect and that the calories have no meaning at all. That was what he said. So, of course, I respond. When have I ever said that calories have, quote, no meaning at all? And I think it's this notion, and I've talked about this before on Jimmy Rants. I think it's this notion when you start to put a qualifier in front of the word fat, the qualifier being high. People think high means unlimited. People think high means gorge yourself on. And so I kindly responded back that I'm a big believer in people eating fat to satiety. That's been my position all along. Go read my book, Keto Clarity. 5 years ago, actually 6 years ago, I was writing on it. 5 years ago, it came out. And I put in there, eat carbs to your personal tolerance level, protein moderated to your personal threshold level, and then the final piece with dietary fat, eat it to satiety. So never once have I said eat unlimited amounts of fat, that it doesn't, that the calories in that don't matter. Never once have I said that you should gorge yourself on fat. And yet there's this meme out there that people think that's what I say. So number one, follow my work so you know what the bleep I'm saying, and don't pretend like you understand my position and trying to articulate it on Twitter. But I want to ask this question. Is it calories or hormones that matter most with keto? And then I want to ask a follow-up question. Can it be both? Because at the end of the day, if you're just looking at calories doesn't really tell you a whole lot. I can have 2,000 calories of all Twinkies. And in no universe is 2,000 calories of all Twinkies exactly the same as 2,000 calories of steak and vegetables. No universe is that a 1-for-1 exactly the same. And yet, if you only look at it through the prism of calories, then those two things are exactly the same. And it's people like this guy on Twitter that want to make it only about calories. And when I brought up the hormonal aspect, he said, well, it plays a very small role. All right. So how small? And if it plays any role at all, what role does it play? And if you think this through commonsensically, it makes more sense to say that it's probably a hybrid of both calories and hormones, almost on an equal footing. Because the quality of the calories that you consume do matter. That steak and vegetables compared with 2,000 calories worth of Twinkies, far different reaction in the body. The steak and vegetables has a very minimal negative impact on your hormones. And the Twinkies has a very detrimental impact on your hormones. Nobody is going to deny that if you eat 2,000 calories worth of Twinkies, that you're going to have an insulin response. Nobody's going to deny that the ghrelin levels will go through the roof and you'll be starving after eating 2,000 calories worth of Twinkies. Nobody's going to deny that there will be an inflammatory response consuming that wheat, sugar, and crappy oil bomb known as a Twinkie. And yet when you eat the steak and the vegetables, which has exactly the same number of calories, none of that happens. You don't get an insulin response. You don't get inflammatory response. You wouldn't see your blood sugar go up. You wouldn't see any of them, and your satiety signals will kick in very hard eating steak and vegetables. And so the whole notion of it has to be this either or proposition when it comes to the foods that you eat, that either it's about the calories or it's about the hormones. Why can't it be both? And the answer is it is both. It's calories in as much as you're listening to your body and you're listening to the satiety signals, the very natural signals that your body gives you that says, okay, dude, that's enough. And when you get that, it's great. On this keto carnivore, I've been very, very cognizant of my satiety signals. And I have made a plate of food. And if I'm 2/3 through that plate of food and I'm feeling full, I'm throwing the rest of the food to the chickens in my backyard because I'm full. And there's no sense in blowing by satiety. Now, I get it. Some people that have had a binge eating background that and have had a lot of food and are used to cleaning their plate because mama always said if you don't clean the plate, children in Africa are starving, and so you were always guilt-tripped into eating your whole plate. Can I get a witness, anyone? So I have learned that when I'm done, I'm done, and the chickens are more than happy to clean up my scraps for me. So that's the calorie side of things. But then the hormonal, you cannot deny that there is a hormonal connection here. And if you don't have the hormonal connection in the front of your mind when you're eating food, then it allows you to fall for things like, well, eat everything in balance. It allows you to fall for things like eat in moderation, not too many calories, not realizing that you could have a limited number of crappy garbage calories, but they're still going to have an impact on your body. If you eat a meal or a snack or something and you're hungry an hour later, that was no bueno, whatever it is you ate. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about this debate over whether it's calories or hormones that matter most with keto. And I'm making the argument that it's probably somewhat both of them at the same time. This was brought up because a guy on Twitter basically invoked my name, and that happens quite a bit, saying that, well, people like Jimmy Moore need to be called out because all they care about is the hormonal impact of food and totally ignores the calories. He'd rather you gorge on butter and drink butter and down it like it's nobody's business. And so we're setting the record straight here. And perhaps you become confused by all this. There's no confusion in my mind. It's very simple. When you eat food, the calories matter if you go beyond satiety. So don't go beyond satiety, especially when you're eating fat, because fat will add up very fast. Does that mean fat is bad? No. Does that mean fat is unlimited? Nobody's ever said fat is unlimited. What we've said is fat to satiety. So I'll say it crystal clear here from my friend on Twitter. This is as crystal clear as I can get. Eat carbs to your tolerance, and that's going to vary from person to person. Currently on this keto carnivore, 0 for me. Eat protein to your personal threshold, which is going to vary from person to person as well. And then finally, eat enough fat to feel satiated that you can go long periods of time between meals. And I fall very comfortably with a 1 to 2 meal a day type of eating pattern. And that should be very easy. And if it was merely only about the calories, and I kept calories to some arbitrary number, let's say 2,000, and all I have is Coca-Cola, Doritos, and Little Debbie snack cakes, would I get the same satiety that I get from eating 2,000 calories of steak, vegetables, and butter? Not a chance. Not a chance ever, 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 ever. And why? Because of the hormonal impact. Insulin goes up in that crappy garbage diet. Insulin does not go up on the steak and vegetables and butter. Ghrelin increases and makes me more hungry very quickly after having the crap. Ghrelin is under control when I'm not eating the crap and eating good quality, nutrient-dense foods. Inflammation levels will go through the roof eating all of that junk. But the steak and the vegetables and the butter, completely normalized. Why? Because the hormones are under control. I can't say it any more clearer than that. Yes, calories matter. Yes, hormones matter. Why does it have to be an either or proposition? It's very likely both. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Yes, I get fired up sometimes when I get asinine comments on social media, especially when they misrepresent my position. So hopefully this Jimmy Rants today has made it crystal clear. Alberto says, because fat and proteins turn off appetite really fast. That's the ghrelin that we were talking about. Carb burners always must stop eating even if they're dying to eat more. Yeah. Well, and carb burners that are counting calories. This is the key here. If it's merely only about calories, what do you do when you run out of calories and you're a sugar burner, carb burner? What happens when you run out of calories and you have no more calories you're allowed to eat for the day and you're starving? That can't be healthy for the body, to ignore the body's screaming at you for energy and you're not giving it to them. This is why it's not just that total number of calories. It really is that hormonal impact of the foods that you do feed your body. Amy says, in my opinion, it is both. When you start keto, you don't worry about the calories. You count your carbs and get everything in check. Maybe even eat higher calorie because we've been conditioned to starve. Yeah, Amy, thank you for that. When I did my keto carnivore experiment where I was posting every day my meals and how much I was eating and blah, 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 I was eating 2,700 calories a day, averaging around 75 to 80% fat in my meals of all animal-based foods. And I lost 23 pounds in 28 days. So if it was only about calories, wouldn't you think 2,700, I'm a big boy, but wouldn't you think 2,700 calories is nowhere near like a calorie deficit to produce that kind of fat loss? And yet that's what happened. So how would this guy on Twitter explain, if it's only about calories and not about the hormonal response, how would he explain that success? I don't think he can. But you're right. When you first start keto, you don't really have to count calories. And there was actually a study done by Dr. Jeff Volek, one of the premier ketogenic researchers out there. I remember hearing him share about this study. He said they did a study where they put a group of patients on a low-fat diet that had a specific calorie count. I want to say it was like 1,800 calories. So he put them on this low-fat, high-carb diet with 1,800 calories. But then on the keto end of things, the low-carb, high-fat end of things, he said, eat to satiety. And what they found was the spontaneous keto dieters who ate to satiety, the low carb, high fat, actually ended up matching the exact same calories that were forced on the low fat, high carb dieters. Meaning that keto gives you that natural, when you listen to satiety signals, gives you that natural ability to keep calories in check. The key in all of this, you guys, is listening to satiety. And I get some people, they can't hear that signal because they've never been able to hear it before eating a crappy carbage diet where they're constantly hungry. Once you go keto and all that noise calms down, then your body is very efficient at telling you, okay, dude, it's time to eat. It's not a panic, but it's time to eat. And that's the beauty that keto gives you that this Twitter guy was not acknowledging. You just lost 23 pounds, 28 days, eating 2,700 or so calories. If these people followed you, they would already know the answer. Well, Jen, that's what I told this guy. I said, I appreciate that because I'm famous online, people have these caricatures of who and what I am, but please listen to what I say, because I will tell you what I believe and I'll tell you what I think. I don't need interpreters to explain my position on anything. I think I'm pretty clear about who and what I am. Once you're fat adapted, you can slowly lower the calories to focus on weight loss, says Amy. Yep. Kimberly says, both educate yourself before you post. Yeah, that would be helpful. Why can't we just eat this way, like it, and feel good? Sigh, says Darla. Because that doesn't work in this world. Everybody has to have an opinion, which I talked about yesterday in my last Jimmy Rants, all about, who's in control of your keto path. It's you. And so keep it on you and always do what's right for you. Keto Neogenesis Beth says, my mom was very concerned about my starving children in China, LOL. My dad said if you dug straight down through the earth, you could make it to China. So I always thought maybe I could dig a tunnel and throw them my food. That's cute. Ashton says, I listen to my body. I have no issue pushing the plate away with food on it if I'm full. And Ashton, that was a foreign concept to 410-pound Jimmy Moore. If there was still food on the plate and I was stuffed, I was still stuffing it in my mouth, because all that kind of conditioning that my mom had put in my brain of people starving. So I didn't know how stuffing myself beyond satiety was helping people that were starving. But okay, we all believed that at one point. And so now that I'm very in tune with what I'm eating, very in tune with my satiety signals in my body and my hunger and fullness and all that, I'm very happy. Although when it's tasty food, it is challenging to say, okay, I need to stop. But I also know the negative ramifications of going beyond satiety signals, which is why I always stop. And again, my chickens are more than happy to clean the plate for me. Jen says, I think the problem is people don't know what satiety is anymore when they're always stuffing food in and spending zero time on self-awareness and evaluation. You're exactly right, Jen. Before I went keto, before I went low carb 15 years ago, I didn't know what satiety meant. I was always hungry. And I was always hungry because I was drinking Coca-Cola all the time, literally all the time. I was eating crappy garbage all the time. I could never feel the hunger hormone get satisfied until I went low carb, high fat, and keto. And then adding in the real food element has also been a key element in that nourishment, that satiety signal that I feel now. Bonnie says, I never thought about calories because of carb counting. I didn't realize both hormones and calories matter. If you go overboard, like you said, then calories matter. Am I getting that correct? Well, I don't want there to be this great obsession about calories. Part of the challenge here is we've only heard about calories our entire lives. And so for me to put a little more emphasis on the hormonal impact that this Twitter guy is pointing out. Well, you're ignoring calories. I'm not ignoring calories. I'm just acknowledging that most people generally recognize the impact of calories. So for me to talk more about the hormonal impact is more a product of it's just not on the radar screen of a lot of people. So putting that on your radar screen and reminding you that satiety signals have to be listened to, that's where the calorie connection comes into play. I no longer have trouble controlling hunger and staying satiated for long periods of time. I definitely still have trouble knowing when I'm satiated before it's too late. So Keto Neogenesis, Beth, thank you for sharing that. One of the things that we wrote about in my book, Keto Clarity, was in Asian cultures, they have a teaching that they use with their children. So maybe this could help you out with this. They teach them eat to 80%. So if you eat to 80% fullness, will you be stuffed? No. Will you be hungry? Probably not. You're somewhere in that in-between of your body is telling you you've had enough, but you're not to the point where, oh my gosh, I can't have any more. So find that, and again, it's arbitrary, obviously, but it's a mental game that allows you to eat. Now, one of the things that will eat the proper amount to satiety, one of the things that could help with that is to slow down when you eat, and this is something I still have to work on even to this day, and to take smaller bites and to savor the food and enjoy it and take your time going through your meal, because that satiety signal will kick in at some point. If you've ever been in the middle of a meal and then you get like a phone call and you have to talk for like 20, 30 minutes, you come back and you're like, oh wow, I'm not as hungry anymore. Then maybe that's your body telling you, okay, you've had enough. So slow down your meals. That could definitely help you as well. Brittany, hello, Keto Glow. I was one of those people who counted for my weight loss journey, but now that I have that sensitivity to hunger, I mostly listen to my body during the day, and it actually turns out I eat about the same. So good job, Brittany. Val says there was a diet program several years ago where you only ate to satiety no matter what it was. It works so much better with the keto foods. And that's the thing, Val. That's the thing that this Twitter guy certainly could not understand when he was telling me it's all about the calories and very little to do with the hormones, thinking that I told him it was all about the hormones and very little to do with the calories. You can have that arbitrary amount of calories of whatever foods you want, but if you want to maximize that satiety, you're going to eat the most nutrient dense, high quality foods that you can. And when I say high quality, I mean the ones that will give you all the building blocks of what your body needs from a micronutrient standpoint, as well as a macronutrient standpoint. There is no dietary carbohydrate that is necessary to be consumed in your diet at all. None. But you do have essential fatty acids. You do have essential amino acids. So the fats and proteins that you consume are essential. Essential meaning your body can't make them on their own, so you need to consume them. Now, if you want to throw in a few vegetables here and there or other sources of carbohydrate for variety, that's one thing. But for them to be an absolute necessity in your diet, nope. None. Zero. Nada. C-Doc says it's all hormonal. The magic of this diet is that we always keep our insulin low. If we then listen to satiety signals, then we'll never overeat calorically. I love keto. Yeah, and that's a good point, that when you eat this way, even if you do start to get that signal that it's time to eat, it's more of a, hey dude, oops, sorry. It's more like a, hey dude, it's time to have a little something. Not a, oh my God, I have to eat now. And we've all been in that panic mode when it comes to hunger. When we were carb burners, every one of us were in that panic mode. Christine will tell you I was not a very nice person when I was hungry, because I would get angry and I would get, and that's not a fun place to be. Keto certainly saves us from that. Live and listen healthy. Yeah, in our household, my parents told us never to overeat if we couldn't eat anymore. Yeah. Keto Mary says, amen, Jimmy. I don't understand why people can't comprehend that carbs are not essential. Never have been. Never have been. It's a very sophisticated ruse that they have pulled over the American people to make them think there was ever such a thing as a healthy whole grain. Or I've got another article up here about how the Sugar Association is trying to make the argument that it's not added sugars that's making people fat and we just eat too much calories. Maybe I'll do a Jimmy Rants on that one soon. They just don't get it. It is a hormonal connection. Totally. And you don't need the carbs. You really don't. Oh my God, I just eat and need a dessert too. Or just ate and need a dessert too. Yeah, that's another one, Alberto. When people have a meal and then, oh, I'm so full. Oh, there's dessert on the menu? We've all done that. And again, it's not a caloric thing at that point. That is totally a hormonal response. When you're already full and yet your body's telling you, oh yeah, let me have that sugary dessert because you want the flavor on the tongue. Hormonal. Stephanie says, my friend who is a paramedic found out I was doing low carb, high fat, gave me his entire opinion. Oh, good for him. Saying I wasn't getting enough micronutrients and that I was at risk for developing diabetic ketoacidosis. Oh, I guess we're going to be answering that one till the cows come home. What are my thoughts? Oh, I have lots of thoughts on that one. Are you type 1 diabetic is what I would ask him or tell him first. And obviously you're probably not. So if you're not a type 1 diabetic and you're simply eating low carb, high fat, diabetic ketoacidosis is by definition very extremely high blood sugar levels, upwards of 240 milligrams per deciliter or higher, and extremely high blood ketone levels of 20.0 millimoles per liter plus, okay? And you're a type 1 diabetic who eats a high carb meal and doesn't take any insulin. That's how DKA generally happens in most people. Can a non-type 1 get it? Yes. If you are severely dehydrated, your body is at a more concentrated, your blood is at a more concentrated level. It is possible that you get DKA. Very, very rare in that case. The moral of that story is stay hydrated. So in the context of a low carb, high fat ketogenic diet, you have extremely low blood sugar by comparison to that 240 plus. You have somewhere between 60 and 100 blood sugar levels. And you have very moderate levels of ketones. So rather than extraordinarily high at 20 plus, you're only in like the 1 to 3 range for the most part. Impossible to get diabetic ketoacidosis. So hopefully that helps you out. All right, guys. So the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is it calories or is it hormones that matter the most with keto? And I got into this discussion with a gentleman on Twitter, and I hope he's watching this right now because this is important to understand. Why does it have to be either or? Can it not be a bit of both? And so if you have a ketogenic diet that allows you to have high fat, doesn't mean you're gorging yourself on the fat. It means you're allowing your body to tell you when you've had enough. That's the calorie control. When you eat a ketogenic diet with the higher fat, you actually control and calm down all those hormonal responses. And so that is also a positive effect that comes from keto, looking at the hormones. So is it calories or is it hormones? It is both. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, go check us out live. We do a couple of these every single day, you guys, here on Instagram Live. So if you're not following me on Instagram, go follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, just like all these people did here today. If you missed the live, you can watch the replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, we put all the past episodes up on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants in YouTube or Google. You will find the show. Finally, you can listen to the Jimmy Rants podcast on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. JimmyRants.com is the website. So until next time, we'll see you then.